everybody. I am proud to introduce Ron Piper to you. He is a Maryland photographer based in Severna Park. He retired from the Maryland State Department of Education as a deputy state superintendent in 2011 and has been involved in several Maryland photography organizations since then. He is the vice president for contests for Arundel Camera Club, the vice president of the Creative Photography Society of Baltimore, and member at large for the Maryland Photography Alliance. His work has appeared in Maryland Photography Alliance gallery shows over the past several years, and he has received the Frederick R. Kelly Photographer of the Year Award for 4 of the last 5 years of the Arundel Camera Club. Ron achieved a master's certificate in black and white photography with the Arundel Club in 2020. He has been certified as a judge of the Maryland Photography Alliance since and has served as a judge for numerous club competitions in the Baltimore, Washington area. Ron serves on several MPA committees, including the contest, judging, and finance committees. He currently uses digital mirrorless camera, but shot film for many years before moving to digital. Favorite subjects include travel photography, nature, youth, sports, and family. While he is active on social media with digital images, he most loves black and white print. Over the past decade or so, he has traveled often to Southeast Utah and northern New Mexico to document ancient Puebloan sites as well as desert landscape. However, a lot of additional travel has been up and down the East Coast, where cities and small towns and landscapes provide an array of color, form, and history. While my subjects vary, I want images to produce emotion, to evoke a memory, or to associate an image with something in the viewer's life. Ron's work can be viewed at his website, www.ronpiper.com. If you wish to reach him, his email is ron@ronpiper.com. So if you guys would say hello to Ron, we can get going.
Wave. All right, welcome to the General Monochrome November competition. Let me share my screen here. Okay, can you see that, Ron?
No, yes, absolutely.
All right.
But this, yep, that'll work.
Okay. All right. Well, we have 2 categories as normal, general and monochrome. Start with the general category.
Okay.
There are 40 images, 5 places, and 5 honorable mentions. So no delay. Let's start off.
Okay.
First up is Serenity at New Skeet, Barb Lawton.
Okay. 2 things as we get started. One is I took off this headgear, which I hate. So if you can't hear me very well, let me know and I'll put it back on. And secondly, this was a really tough, both of these contests were really tough to judge because there's so many darn good pictures here that you could almost throw a dart and come up with a winner. It's just really amazing. And so I'll give you some feedback. You get another judge next week, same pictures, you get a different outcome. It's just, that's when you get past the nuts and bolts of the technical aspects of the photographs, an awful lot of the individual experience of the judge comes in and you get what you get. So I apologize. Don't mean to insult anybody if I throw your picture out as we go through. It's just the way it is because it's something's really going to speak to me, may not speak to somebody else. So this particular image I really enjoyed, and I looked at the all of the things in the picture, and I wanted to walk around the canvas here to try to see what the major focus is. The first thing I see is the red door. It's really great. It's nice, off center a little bit, which is good. Gets rid of the balance. The only thing I kept thinking, a couple of things. One is I was really caught up in the in the wood of these old structures and the really unique church right in the center. I wondered if it would be enhanced any if you cropped about a fourth off of the up to the steeple on the left and some of this the pond in the front, and whether that would help to get it there to another level. But I'm not sure. That's going to be going to be the photographer's decision. But it seemed to me that it was probably just a bit more information than I needed to have to try to look at it. So that was my reaction to the first one. Sean, what are you pronouncing these in and out, or am I? How are we doing that?
No, I'll announce the title and the maker.
Okay.
Okay, next up is succulents, Mendocino Botanical Gardens, Dow Smith.
Okay. This is a tough one to deal with because every time I go to an herbarium or and you look at these plants, there is an awful lot of fleckles of pollen or dirt on them that distract from it. And of course, when you do product photography, they tell you to get rid of every bit of that dirt and all that. And it's hard to do that when you have natural products in a natural setting like this. So that was number one thing that I was a little worried about. I don't know, because of that, you don't want to go in there and Photoshop out every little fleckle. It's just not practical. I like the position of these flowers here. So you framed this up nicely, and you got the actually the plants, not flowers, but you got the big one right down middle off center. That's good, and you got another big one on the upper right hand corner. So they all kind of laid out nicely, and they walk my eye around it. So in that regard, it's really quite effective. It's a bit bright in the center of the plant in the lower left, and I kind of like to usually go in there and tone those down a little bit so you can see a bit more detail. So that kind of takes away from it a little bit, but otherwise, everything laid out there. I just don't know what you do with the pollen and dirt.
Okay, next up is Nudes, Elena Kesey.
Okay, good sense of humor with the title of this one. And I have to say, seeing a lot of still lifes of fruit and flowers and all that. I've never seen nude fruit. So this is a first for me. They're placed really nicely with the drape all about it. Got good lighting on all. Our issue here is how attractive is it? And is it really going to give you the specular highlights that you see oftentimes on waxed fruit and so on and so forth? So I'm thinking maybe in that regard, it's funny and it's a great joke in a way. On the other hand, it's really well done for what it's done, from what it is. You got some really super pictures in this competition, and that's going to make this one a little bit difficult to hold up to the end.
Next up is Man with Best Friend, Ronald Spear.
Okay, it's a couple clever things here. The first thing happens when I look at the picture, my eye goes to that ball. And so he's interacting with the dog, and it's a nice casual look to it. And of course, that beach, I believe behind it, all around him there, is just nice and plain and clean. So there's nothing to distract my eye from him and the dog. So two things happen here. One is the dog is facing away. I don't have the best light on the dog's face. I don't see the dog interacting with the ball, and that's something that might make it a bit more interesting. And the third thing is looking at his face here. That actually I really zone right in it, and that's one of the things that really works with this is that you're interacting. The photographer was interacting with the man, so that works. So I had some pluses and some minuses that kind of went together with that. Sometimes now one thing I would note is in terms of cropping, you've got about the equal amount of space on the left and right and kind of on the bottom. And you don't want, and it was the right thing not to push the frame on the left up against the dog's nose, because that's just going to be bad. You want to have the dog looking into the frame if possible. you might have been able to pull a little bit off of the sign. I have a tendency, as you'll find out this evening, to crop things maybe closer than some people's taste might be. But there are some reactions to this. But all that said, I like this. It's casual, it's fun, and it's one of those things that if you hang around, you kind of might be able to get to the get just the right interaction between the dog and the man and the ball there to kind of do what you want to do.
Okay, next up is I Like Blue, Thomas Whitmore.
Okay, I love this because the little child, I don't know what the interaction is, but there's some sort of trouble there because this little girl needs to be talking to the policeman. This would probably work a bit better, I believe, if I got rid of the man on the left and just cropped it right up pretty close to the policeman's back. So I'm just looking at the interaction between the two. And I'm not 100% certain that the nose end of the vehicle on the right is necessary for it. Now, the only thing that's a little bit of an issue here is the policeman's face is a little bit dark and the little girl's looking away from him, which is probably because she doesn't want to look at him, I'm guessing. So it's got a lot of whimsy to it, and it's got a nice interaction here potentially happening, and maybe just a little bit more real estate than you might need to tell the story on this.
Next up is Under Her Wing, Bernie Fabry.
Okay, this one is really interesting because you've got a pose that I don't know I've ever seen with the bird, with a duck like this. I see the little duckling, and it took me a while. I was looking at the duck's head and the wings and everything else. And all of a sudden I saw this little duckling over here, and I thought, oh yeah, that should be part of that. So part of the problem there is it's just a little bit dark there, and it's a little harder for my eye to go to that because I'm so caught up in the pattern on the wings of the duck. You use the right lens for this because the whole duck is, well, not the whole duck, the tips of the wings are blurred because of movement, but the duck is really in focus. But your depth of field is fairly shallow because you fade off to the background where the specular highlights are not going to be enough to interfere with the picture. So a lot of good things. I would have liked this picture a whole lot better. And this is a stupid thing to say because nobody's going to go out there and get a boat, go around to the other side of the bird. So I apologize for that. But on the other hand, it's usually a little more interesting if you can see the bird's face. But on the other hand, I kind of like looking at the wings on this thing. So it had its pluses and minuses. Everything is just, you kind of have to take what you get.
Next up is Parallel Universe, Elena Kesey.
Okay. Yeah, this is looks like Vermont granite or something with the purple stone. And I think that's what it's a stone or something. I'm not sure. But the more important thing is the striations, the parallel lines of the rock, and then these kind of spider webs of moss on each of the stones, and it kind of walks because of the fact that it's just a little bit diagonal off. It kind of walks you up toward the left-hand corner of the image. So as an abstract, it works pretty well, and it looks, of course, digital. It's a little hard to tell, but it looks like it's pretty much sharp, kind of up throughout.
Next up is Lilies, Margarita Hill.
Okay, I do a lot of flower photography. Longwood Gardens is not but an hour and a half from here, and I did see a couple Longwood pictures, and just a great collection of flowers. It's really, really hard to get flowers right. So a lot of things about this image was really working for it because, first of all, you've got enough bokeh in the background to get rid of enough of the detail, so I'm not distracted except off to the left here, where some of the foliage is still a little bit more detailed than you might like, and it's just a tad darker except in the upper left, upper part of the bokeh in the back. I would probably darken that down just a little bit. That said, I was able to, without a lot of distraction, focus right on these flowers. And you got the typical three. Of course, everybody knows you have to have three subjects and not just two. So that was good. And these are all pretty good specimens. And the other thing that was interesting here is they're mostly in focus, and probably in focus enough for this. The thing that I keep struggling with flowers is you don't want them to get crunchy and add too much texture to them sometimes, because you attempted to do that to get some detail. And you want to maintain the pastel feel and the velvety feel of it. So this kind of is down the middle on that. So there are a couple of things here. If you were to go back and look at it, it would be more about just toning down and maybe darkening the background. But the subject is captured pretty well. I think that if you did try to get a little bit more depth of field out of the lens on this and bring it up to f22 or something, you probably end up lose the bokeh in the background. So it's always a struggle in trying to figure out what you're going to give up when you do a picture like this.
Next up is a Sirius engine, Ray Hendrickson.
Okay, you know, this was a pretty awesome piece of equipment. I really like these pictures of auto engines, racing engines. They're great. This one is probably better than some in the respect that you've tilted the angle a little bit. It seems like it's fairly naturally captured. It doesn't have a lot of definition and shadows, and not a lot of reflection off of the chrome in the upper left of the picture. Probably would have liked this to have a little bit more definition to kind of make it pop, it seems to me. The light is just a bit flat. But the other thing that I wondered about, and I don't know the answer to this, is can you zone in on a part of this image? You know, you got these orange, the octopus in the middle, coming up off the manifold, I guess. The orange, there's some abstract, almost abstract part of the image in that part of the picture, and I don't know where it is because I can't give, I don't have enough thought. So a little fiddling around with Photoshop might make that into almost an abstract of some kind, and trying to work on the I would call it, just make it crisper. I'm not quite sure how to describe that, but the flat light is kind of working against you a little bit here.
Next up is Icelandic Chill, Neil Shapiro.
Yeah, well, I tell you, the trip to Iceland is on my bucket list too, and maybe I'll get back there, get there one of these days. You got everything. It's almost like it's hyper focused from the rocks in the foreground to the rocks partway up, and then the ones in the distance and the sky. So I don't know if you did a focus stacking to get it all the way through, but then at the same time, you've got this wonderful slow exposure on the water, the falls and so on. And they really came out quite nicely, given the fact you've got some mist in here too, that can kind of make things a little bit soft at the wrong places, but all of that kind of went together. So I did like the construction of it in the respect that you left enough of the rock in the foreground that you walked my eye right up over the water throughout the waterfall, the sky, and out. And I do like it. It's good when the image is able to take you there and you don't have to kind of do that yourself. But it's really a nice image.
Next up is Oculus in Gotham City, Alan Wiggins.
Yeah, Oculus is really just an awesome structure, and you can get any number of pictures from any number of angles. I had a little bit of question here. It seems to be mono, except for the trees in the foreground have a desaturated green color. So I but that aside, it doesn't distract from the picture. I thought it was kind of cool is because from this particular angle, you get this building on the left that has a lot of detail that really kind of stands out and from the others. And you're able to get both of the fans, I guess, from that structure here. So, Oculus is good for almost a half day of roaming around and trying to get angles. It's very nice. I especially like the fact that you took a great deal of care to get every vertical, every perpendicular line perfectly straight, top to bottom. Everything is really where it needs to be.
Next up is Mendocino Botanical Gardens, Dow Smith.
Okay, these flowers are very, very pretty, and the and again the pastel colors are quite nice. And I noticed in this picture too, you did a good job in not amping the colors up too much. I mean, the green's a nice green. The flower, you want it to be lively, and that's good. There's a little bit of busyness in the bokeh in the background that is a little difficult. It sort of fights a bit, and you have that little light spot in the upper center that distracted me too, and one down in the left-hand corner that might be helpful to tone those down. You got a couple others here and there. So I'd really want to just look at these flowers. So what happens is if I follow the stem, it goes right up to the corner, and then the end of the flower is cut off there. And I don't know the answer to this one either, but I'm wondering if this might have talked to me more if I was able to see the flower up to the corner and not have it clipped off. That's just, I don't know. I don't, that's a question. That's not really an analysis, but I did look at that. And these rules of photography, they're suggestions. You don't clip off the top of a fishing rod or whatever else. They're just suggestions, and sometimes it doesn't matter. So it just occurred to me. I thought I'd throw that out for what it's worth. But that's about all I have to say on that one, I guess.
And next is Family on the Beach, Ronald Spear.
Yeah, this one, the photographer obviously was very observant and picked up these striations on the beach and the reflection in the wash. And I think that's really excellent. And I think it's also interesting that contrasts so much with the foamy surf behind it. And it makes kind of a nice, the geometry as it swoops around the edge of the foamed area. And then you've got these rocks in the back, which don't contribute to the picture other than to give you context, help you make sure that you understand it's on the beach and so on. So I was looking at the family, and first of all, it's a flat light day. So it might have popped a bit more if we'd had a little bit better light, but I'm looking at the 6 people, and generally you don't like to have objects or people that are subjects. We call it occluding one over the other. So the man with the Alaska shirt there is somewhat over the blue, the boy with the blue sweatshirt. Now, I don't know. I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, why does I focus on that? And why did that bother me? But somehow I felt like these people, if they were just positioned, if the photographer gets a few pictures of these folks walking across here, getting in just the right position, that my eye would dance from one person to the next and be kind of more caught up in the movement of the people, particularly the young boy in the blue jacket, third from the left. So kind of mixed bag of reactions to that, and I hope some of that's really good. But I really liked how you got nice reflections out of that front piece of the water, of the wash.
Next up is End of the Line, Sean Sullivan.
Okay, yeah, this is interesting. The colors are good. The question I have is the sky looks like it's just going a little bit purple. So you played with the colors a little bit. Doesn't really bother me, but it just doesn't seem quite as natural as it might ought to. But I love this idea because my eyes just follow the rails right back to the car in the background. And I thought that's the coal car, I guess that is. And I thought that was quite interesting. I'm wondering the extent to which that sky and so on is contributing to the picture. Would it be any better if I got rid of some of that, the sky and so on, because it's, I really want to focus on the car. So I'm not sure that I need all that upper, maybe even the upper half of the picture. Give yourself a little bit of space above the car there. But the old train cars are great to photograph, and old tracks and so on. But I do like the fact that you walked me right up to it with the rails positioned this way.
Next up is Resting, Sharon Silversmith.
Okay. This great capture for this bird because you can see a lot of texture and form on the bird's feathers throughout, and the bird's off to the side. It's pretty flat light also, which in one regard it's good. You don't have deep shadows to deal with, but the head seems to be just a bit darker. And what I've heard people doing a lot lately, and I do a little bit of this too, is select out the eye on the bird and try to brighten it to get your attention on the bird's eye. And somehow when that's sharp and lighter, you get somehow engages the viewer a whole lot more. The thing I'm concerned more about with this picture though, I like the bird. That flower in the background is really interesting. So I've got two subjects here that I'm not sure what to do with as a viewer, because that flower is really dramatically busy with its the red and white lights, the red and white colors rather. So I don't know what to tell you, because there are two subjects, they're back to back. You could try to clone out all that in the background, and I don't know if there's enough in the bird and these nicely captured flowers over here to carry as an image. And I'm not bothered at all about the fact that the bird's on these metal plant, we call it stakes. But I'm not falling in love with this picture as much with the fighting between the bird and the flower in the background.
Okay, next up is Archtech photographer, Linda Thomas-Ewell.
Okay, I'd love to know the story behind this picture, because it took me a long time to try to figure out what to do with it, because the question, if it shouldn't be that hard to figure it out, and maybe I'm just totally missing something. I really loved it as an art piece. You got the photographer, and then you have this really interesting spacey surround, and I don't understand what it is, and then I don't understand how the photographer fits in with it. But on one hand, the other hand, I'm really intrigued by this. It just really captured my interest. I spent a long time looking at the picture and the photographer's reflection in the floor there. So I think it was very clever, and I assumed that it was in a room someplace in a museum or some other location where you're able to capture all this. But it looks like it would have a really good story behind it.
Next up is Rice Family Book, Kimcoza.
Okay. Yeah, I spent a good bit of time looking at this. I see I have some old books and things around. It gave me some ideas on what I could do to try to photograph those, because many of them just end up in stacks of shelves, and they're 100 years old, and they're not going to get attention. This is a good way to capture that. I like the tapestry behind it is the same tonality as the book, so that was really good together. And and sometimes you're going to have some judges look at it and say, well, you clipped off a piece of the book at the top and the bottom and all that stuff. That does not bother me because I think that you need to kind of focus in on that page, which has a lot of interesting things there. And I do like the fact that this book, the page, you're able to process this in a way to get all this staining out and so on. And I think angling it like this gives you some nice tension when you look at it. And I'm not sure what to do in terms if you want to improve on it. I don't know that there is any improvement. It's just it did exactly what you wanted to do. It captured the book. It looks much more interesting this way than it would be just off on a square on. The diagonal really makes it much better.
Next up is Rose in the Rain, Claudia Jakubowski.
Okay. Now, I would spend a good bit of time trying to think this one through. You got a lot of good elements here. This rose has a variety of tones and colors and so on, and that's really good. And you've got right in the center of it there, it's very sharp. It's very sharp out too, except for the edges on the outermost petals. And that's not a problem. I like the fact that you had a lot of water drops in it that stood out. They could stand out even a bit more to make it look a little bit more dramatic. So another thing that really helped us along was darkening the background and maintaining this green versus orange-yellow contrast. I'm not sure where they fall on the color wheel exactly, and I don't subscribe to all that, but that means that I can look at the picture, look at the rose without having to be caught up by a background. So that was really good. And I looked at the stem. Stem is blurred enough and dark enough down there that I'm not going to waste my time on that. So my question on that might be, do I get any benefit by cutting even more from the stem on the bottom? Does the stem and the bottom really contribute to the image when I really want to look at the rose? And I'm thinking maybe it's almost a square crop, and you get where you want to go with this.
Next up is The Cockpit, Ray Hendrickson.
Okay, yeah, I tell you, a lot of chrome and a lot of waxed sheet metal here. This is pretty spectacular. These old cars just have so many dials and buttons and all that, so they're cool. This one has all these row of instruments on the instrument panel, and so my eye gets to this recurring theme of these circles and so on over through the circle in the back of the headrest. My eye kept running over to the bar on the back of the headrest. Looks like there are 3 supports for the headrest. That upright diagonal pipe on the left, on the right. I'm wondering if I got rid of that, whether I'd be able to spend more time looking at the instrument panel and enjoying that, because all of that seems to be nicely captured and with the color and really vibrant colors and so on, and repeating circles.
Next up is Leaf Macro, Joe Catronio.
Okay. Many years ago, I was a biology teacher, so I liked, I love plants, and I still do a lot of macros myself. So this really appealed to me, and I constantly want to, in the fall, it's a great time to go out and pick up leaves like this that have some nice patterns on it. So it's really, really nice. And one of the downsides of working with digital is that I just don't know how sharp and how crisp these are. It looks like they're very, very sharp and clean. I'm I'm wondering, first of all, the layout is probably very good with the 3 veins off to the left, one up to the top, branches, and then one off to the right. And I think that that really is good because it guides your eyes through that one. I'm wondering if in some of the bright areas, if they were not a whole lot, but just toned down just a tiny bit, whether I would be able to get into the picture a little bit more and sense the sharpness, because I think it's a really going to be a quite sharp picture. It's not going to be sharp around those veins because they're probably on the other side of the leaf. So, yeah, nice.
Next up is Cascade Lake in October. Janice Pritchett.
Yeah, this one really had a lot of nice elements. That sky looks like a late afternoon sky, perhaps, and time of the day. You've got some good fog lying in the back there, and you've got this just spectacular reflection in the lake out there. So, and the colors and this, I mean, everything is just coming together here. It's such a nice image. So it's a lot about the reflection in the image and not so much about the foreground. I kind of held a piece of paper up across it and got rid of most of the foreground there because I don't know if that's, you call that negative space or whether it's just distraction, but it didn't seem that it was contributing as much to that image. But I'd put this up on my wall if I didn't have this area to the foreground, but you really captured the fog and the crisp colors there. And that sky is just a nice, pleasant pastel sky that you see late day these days. Somebody it's probably going to turn out it's an early morning picture, so I can be wrong about the time of day. But anyway, but yeah, I really enjoyed looking at this one.
Okay, next up is a kayak adventure, Sean Sullivan.
Okay, well, you know, these, I worked a long time on this one, trying to figure out what is going to make it pop for me. And I think that the being able to capture this lake, this kayak on the water here, you got a little bit of ripple in the water. It gives that a lot of interest. You got decent colors and the greens there, and the sky is not so in focus and sharp and contrasty that it distracts. So all of those things are kind of working for you. The sign on the left doesn't contribute to your picture, and I don't think that the structure, the brown structure off to the left, right above the sign, contributes to it. And I was wondering if this really would work a little bit better if you just come over to the right of the sign and crop it there, and then crop out some of the I'm saying the word specular highlights tonight. That must be my word of the day, term of the day. I wonder if this might be good. A little bit off the left, a little bit off the bottom to bring it up closer because I want to see those kayakers. That really speaks to me. And I'm wondering if coming in from the right a little bit too. So the scale of the kayak gets to be a little bit bigger within the view. So I kind of get to enjoy it a little bit better and something to focus on. So it's nice.
Okay, next up is End of Summer, Sharon Silversmith.
Okay, I really looked at all of these items here. As I said, as an old biology teacher from many years ago, and looks like all the things I see at a couple of the ponds around here, and it's just an interesting collection. And I assume that that's a red sign or maybe on a top of a kayak that they lie there. I would like this a whole lot better, I believe, if these kind of items or these items were selected out and kind of thought through in terms of the position to try to walk your eyes through the collection of items because they all tell the story of fall and what's happening in wetlands when the cold weather comes in. And then you have some of the area down to the lower middle is just a little bit out of focus and a little bit soft, and then a couple of the other areas toward the back. So probably I would increase the depth of field just a little bit, maybe a little bit more contrasty lighting, and then again, taking time to select the items you're going to put there and lay them out. But that orange background doesn't hurt. That would be fine. But it felt a little bit too random to me to be comfortable with it. So anyway, a few thoughts.
Okay, next up is the Christmas Sanctuary 1, Alan Wiggins.
Okay, yeah, this is quite a nice image because you've got all this slow water in the middle, slow exposure on the water, and that is really nice. Now, I like the fact that the camera is really low here. So you're looking up across the, I guess you could call it rapids, but across the falls. And it's a little bit unusual in that oftentimes when you have waterfalls like this, you don't have, it's not as wide as this. So that's quite good. So again, I'm into cropping a lot. I'm okay with the water up to this piece of the rocks jutting out from the right-hand side. I'm not totally certain how much the water below that contributes to it. And on the right-hand side, you don't have any water to the right, let's say the right fourth of the picture or so. And I think you could probably crop it there. Sometimes when you crop and you have a scene like this, it creates a little bit of an illusion that there are more, you imagine that there are more waterfalls out to the side since it's already kind of wide, and that kind of contributes to the image. So yeah, nice capture on the water. Admire people who are willing to set the tripod down and take the time to get the water moving and get it still and give this kind of an effect with it.
Okay, next up is Another Boring Day at the Office, Bill Lanahan.
Yeah, this was cool in the respect that you've got the control control panel, whatever. All the controls are right there. You can see them. You can see the pilot. You've got the smoke. Every bit of this plane is in focus. So you had a very high shutter speed, maybe 1/2000th of a second, in order to be able to capture the plane in flight and be able to get it this sharp all over. So it's a great angle because it goes diagonal from the lower right to the upper left. There's among the aviation photographers, there's a lot of flap about how fast do you want the shutter speed, because you oftentimes will want to have a lot of motion blur in the, like a circular disc up there blurred at the front of the airplane. And I'm not into all that. I was really in awe over the fact you're able to capture this thing and be able to smartly put it in this kind of a position in the frame. And the colors are really nice on this specimen too.
Next up is History Lessons, Linda Tomasulo.
Yeah, I have a friend, Steve Sattler, who's the president of the Maryland Photography Alliance, and one of his quirky habits, I'm going to go shoot with him in a National Gallery of Art next week, and I have a feeling we're going to be doing some of this. He likes to take pictures of people looking at art. It's just fascinating, the body language and the interaction of people with pictures. I really like this, and I got a feeling just from this particular angle. You see Teddy's looking out at the girl. It just feels like he's about ready to come alive. But one of the minor, and by the way, the lighting is really good, and you've got nice, smooth, no noise or anything, even though the lighting there is in galleries is a little bit low sometimes, and introduce some noise. I don't see a lot of noise there at all. Only thing that bothered me on this picture, and this is something that it's stupid, but see the 26 on the medallion by her head? I looked at Teddy Roosevelt, I looked over at her, and by the way, orange and black are the Baltimore Orioles, so I do like the color scheme. But then I immediately got up at the 26, and then my eye was caught up on the 26, and I couldn't look at anything else. And I hate to get into natural things like this and move, clone them out. Sometimes it's not appropriate, but in this case, it did bother me a little bit. But it's a really nice image and a real thoughtful setup. I appreciate your patience to be able to get this.
Okay, next up is Seattle Abstract 2, Phil Olivo.
Okay, there's in Chicago, there's a band show in Centennial Park, is it? Millennium Park, that's made of a similar kind of panels, and it makes for a fascinating abstract. And I really like this because of the fact you've gone a little painterly with this. Oftentimes people stay very natural and realistic with it and don't push it a little bit. And you got some interesting colors, and the lower right, the blue up here and so on. So, that's one thing I'm enjoying. And I'm doing a photo judging tomorrow night for Silver Spring. And there's some folks there that are doing some painterly things like this too. I really like that. I think it's very creative. And it's interesting that sky echoes the colors of the metal panels over here, and the dark. So a lot of colors, and I like the position because your eyes can walk through the whole picture and get a very good feel from this. So yeah, it's a really nice. You have to be okay with going painterly and being creative with the photography. I've got some friends that just can't tolerate that. So more power. I liked it.
Next up is Honeybee's Dream, Joe Catronio.
Well, this one I spent a good bit of time trying to be sure I was getting the take on it. It looks like you've dropped a little texture screen or something over the top of it outside of the bee there, and that makes it have a bit of a painterly feel. And I like the fact that it's about the bee, it's not about the flower as much. And so you have kind of blended that in to the background and gone a little bit soft with that at the bottom of the bee and above the bee. I was trying to do something like this summer at Longwood Gardens. I didn't have nearly the luck that you've had with this. The problem with these darn bees is getting them all in focus and having high enough shutter speed, and then deep enough depth of field to be able to get it in focus and to freeze its motion. So I think it appears to be a little bit soft on the very bottom and up on the hairs across the head here, but it's about the position there. I don't always like a lot of negative space on pictures. I'd crop things in closely, but I felt that the space is probably appropriate for what you got here. And it's a nice, it's just got a nice feel.
Okay, next up is the 1952 Chevy Club Coupe, Rich Sharpstein.
Okay, yeah. I hate to say I was around when that car was new, so I know more about this than I should perhaps. So these old cars fixed up like this, really nice opportunity, and you've got the driver head forward, and it's a little bit dark as it would be inside the car. And so you don't get to see a lot of detail there, what's happening with him. You've got the woman over here beside the post. The view of her is just a little bit obscured by that post. And so I didn't like that as much. It made her less prominent, because I think her reacting to the car is really important. And I would like to have been able to see her more clearly to know for sure that she's reacting. You got some of the purists don't like these mailboxes and stuff like that in the background. It's part of urban life, and you got to live with some of this. I did like the fact that you got these interesting colors. You got the red house, you got the green house, got the door that's got some good sharp colors, and you got this really unique color on this car. I've never seen one with this kind of a gold to it. So a lot of good things for it. A couple things that I'm wondering, can't go back and reshoot it. It's a gone by moment that hard to replicate.
Next up is Past Sunset, Bill Lanahan.
Yeah, this one really talked to me. You're far enough past sunset that you see the details, the reflection, and across the surf washing up on this beach, and absolutely not a human in sight. A lot of negative space down in the front. This is one time where you really need to have negative space like that to contrast with the picture in the ocean in the middle. The sky might have been nicer had it been a little more colorful. Yeah, but there are certain places in the world that you're not going to get a colorful sky. And beside that, a colorful sky would probably take away from the fact that you got all this geometry going on with these waves moving in and so on. But it's got just a nice feel and nice tonality to this.
Okay, honorable mentions. First up, Dial a Dream, Robert Neer.
Now, as you may have been able to tell by my comments on the photos before we got to this, I really struggled in terms of not including some of them, because they were just also really good. So my apologies to the ones we've not selected. This had a bit of a painterly, a soft feel, not overdone, and it's these pastel colors. I like pastel colors and pastel lighting on flowers when they're well done. They just evoke a feel. It's the issue is this thing really just spoke to me. I like the fact that the whole background is totally black. There's nothing back there that's going to distract me from going right to the center of this flower and watching it all the way out to the rims. And I think it's a perfect use for a good square crop and the placement. But being a bit soft around the edge there, particularly, it's really good and it's good feel.
Next honorable mention, Dorothy's Shed, Kimcoza.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time looking at this one too. Again, I've been really caught up with these pastel colors. I'm looking at a lot of the contests for my own club. People are going with some really sharp, bright colors, and they have their place too. But this one, it's very gentle and quiet. And my eye first, when I look at this, it first goes to the door. Then it's secondly, because it's also light in color, it goes to the road to the left. And then I'm back looking at the saw blades on the side of the building and the window to the loft of the shed. And then I'm up at the up in the sky, and I'm not sure if that's the right order to look at, because the sky really just sets the tone for this and reflects perfectly those flowers, the row of flowers there along the side of the shed, and just being able to get the shed with this all this nice texture to it. Now, this seemed like all the things went together here, because you've got the road coming out of the right-hand corner, so it helps you move into the image, and you've got the sky up to the brighter areas and the more colorful areas in the left upper. So your eye kind of moves from the right bottom to the left top and away. It picks up the shed. It's just got a really nice feel.
Next honorable mention, Ignatius, Phil Olivo.
Yeah, this picture really it contrasted with expectations. Sometimes you get somebody, obviously local. This looks like maybe France or someplace in Europe, 1846. You got the two bicycles, and you got this nice green roof. I mean, there are all kinds of things that just kind of come together here. So the two bikes seem to kind of frame the man. You go up the left-hand side, and you needed to see that to know. You had the feeling that that's there, but the bicycle's even more important. You see the one in the front, so you get it. He's kind of framed in by both of those. I like the fact that you were able to observe the fact you've got this orange door and this red block up there and the green roof. So all those things kind of went together, and the green kind of bounces off of the dark green soccer shirt that I believe that's what that is that the man has, so it's. I looked at it. He's posing. He's looking at the camera. It's good when the subject interacts with the photographer, and he's kind of static being there. But the more I looked at it, the more it spoke to me, because I now understand. I got a good feeling for him and a good feeling for where he was by the placement. So I think it was a well staged picture, but not necessarily a traditional one.
Next up is Getting a Trim, Claudia Jakubowski.
Yeah, it reminds me of many days at Smitty's Barber Shop in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. And a good barber is good for a good joke or two, a good story. And you got all the accoutrement there, the thermometer on the wall, and paper towels and all that stuff. Good old time barbershop. I have to say, might like this even more if I didn't have to see the mirror on the right hand side. The mirror said you see barber on the reflection, but I don't think I have to see that in order to really enjoy this picture. It got good tonality, so I would crop it in just a little bit. Offhand, I've been saying that a bit tonight, so my apologies. But he's engaging with you as a photographer. It's a nice, whimsical moment. I liked it.
Okay, and last honorable mention. Fall, Hancock Village, Barb Lawton.
Okay, this is another one. I would really like to know a bit about the processing on this, because you obviously took a lot of care to get this image together. The grass is very soft, and you've got I'm going to say the edges on the pumpkins are soft, but there's not a lot of detail there, just kind of hints of the shapes. It feels very painterly. And you got those nice stone, the stone building to the right, this red in the back. And again, this contrasts with some of the other things we've seen tonight, which have had some good soft colors, but it has bright colors with a soft approach to it. Yeah, it's all placed very nicely in this color. I just like to know how you um, this, how and why you decided to make this grass soft, because that and the soft uh, palette on the pumpkins makes me spend a lot of time looking at the image and liking it. I don't know. I'm not able to articulate what's in my mind. If there's any negative, the sky is pretty cloudy and pretty plain, and as a consequence, it made the light be a little bit flat. And there are times when having the light flat works for the image. I think if it were a little bit less flat and a little bit more definition, it may have taken it to a new level. But all that said, I really like this picture, and this is one I would put on my wall as well. I'd
Okay,
have to take a couple down to do that.
and our winners in 5th place. Interactions, Rich Schreibstein.
Okay, yeah, look at the eye contact between the old man and the little girl here, and then you see up the street you got the policeman there, I believe, and then you got all this. As street photography goes, this is about as good as it gets. You know, the policeman sees you, but you really are focused and laser sharp on the interaction between the little girl and the old man. There's a real story there, and the fact that you got all this action, it makes it feel real urban, even more so with the signs in the window behind you there.
Right, in 4th place, Transition, Neil Shapiro.
Yeah, this was there's a place I know that it looks almost identical to this, and I'm sure you didn't come down here to shoot it on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Moon is looking really nice and proper shape and color and all that. Sorry, I'm going to take my hearing aid out. It's misbehaving this evening. Something's wrong there. So you got the pink sky reflected directly above the trees, and it's a perfect reflection down in the water of the trees. This is so peaceful. It's very, very peaceful. You got the moon over here, and sometimes images like this are peaceful and clean, and they're not interesting. But what makes this interesting, I think, is the fact that you've got these colors in place. So that's just my reaction to it. But it just as landscapes go, it's one I'd like to have shot.
Okay, in 3rd place, Floral Dancer, Robert Neer.
Okay, this is another one of these painterly approaches. I see you put a mat on it, which makes sense, and you allowed some of the flowers in the background to go to blur because they're off of the focus, and you're focused on the 3 at the top, and then there's these others just sort of lay into the kind of trickle down toward the bottom of the image, I guess is one way to put it. So you've got enough detail in the background to hint at the fact that there are probably lots of additional flowers and so on in the background, and the colors really are very compatible for this, and the a little bit more pink down toward the bottom than otherwise. On flowers, I really love them whenever they're done and I do a lot of mine is super realistic. But I look at something done like this, I know I can't do this, and I do like the feel that this generates when you look at it. It's very, very calming and it's very beautiful. It's a nice image.
Okay, in 2nd place, Teamwork, Thomas Whitmore.
Okay, yeah, this one I kept looking at this, and I kept thinking about the fires we've had all summer long, and uh, some of the West and the Midwest and so on. It seemed very timely in that regard. And this one was interesting how you've processed this, because I see the smoke. Now I see that the flames, and the flames are kind of blown out in a way, but they're super bright and they're going to be. So I know that, I'm going to accept that. You know, there are probably some judge who will chastise one for blowing out flames in this condition. I don't see what the point is, because it's a big fire and it's a big deal. You see the spray coming out to the side that produces almost a halo around these firemen. And I looked at the firemen together. Yeah, absolutely, teamwork is positively the right word for this. So yeah, it was exciting, and it's exciting to see something. It was just really unique and really timely. That's why I particularly liked it.
And our first place winner is Ivy Island, Janice Pritchett.
Well, there's a place in Maine that sort of reminded me of this, in Lubeck, but this is just a spectacular photograph. You know, I need more wall space. This is really nice. I like the fact that the sky is misty white all the way up to the edge, and allows you, and it came in behind this island, so you can see these trees in silhouette against the white, and the you were able to capture these little puffs of the mist all along the water, and then with all that, still able to get such crisp, sharp detail in the reflections that are right up to the front. And the fishermen off to the left-hand side. This is one of those pictures you wish you had shot yourself. I commend the photographer, because I'm sure it took a little bit of work to make sure everything was at the right place, the right time for this. But it's beautiful, beautiful image.
Congratulations, Janice, and to all our winners, all great images. Let's move on to our monochrome category now. We have 38 images, we have 5 places, and 5 honorable mentions. Okay, we're going to start with our first image. It's The Flasher, Neil Shapiro.
Okay. I really like black and white, and I do a fair amount of it. And oftentimes, before you push the shutter, snap the shutter, you know it's going to be a black and white. It's before you even put it on the camera on your card. That was probably the case with this. I had a bit of difficulty with it. I get it with the flash off to the side. I wish I'd had more detail here in this crowd. There's a lot of movement there, and I don't quite know what's going on. But I think if I were able to see more detail there, then I would kind of get the context for the image. But it's commendable to try to go out and get in these really dark, these low light settings to get images. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think that there are a lot of good things about this. It just seemed like it was just too dark and not enough contrast with the figures in the middle for me to understand what's going on.
Next up is Mendocino Fog, Dow Smith.
Okay. Now, keep in mind that the first place winner before, where we had mist and fog, and you can capture that well in black and white too. This one is a little bit tough because you've got quite a bit of fog. You got enough fog in the background that gives you a white uh, canvas to get the silhouette of the row of trees on that point out. However, there's enough fog in the front that it kind of it obscures it, and it doesn't allow that part to be a little bit as sharp as you might like. So that I struggled a little bit with, but I think it was a great place to be at that particular time, and it, trying to think through these things is really hard. The other thing I'm having a little bit of trouble with is there is quite a bit of the tree on the right hand side protruding into the image, and I think that it's okay sometimes to use that to frame the image. It's probably a little bit more than you need because there's not much in there and the fog and so on that contributes to this. So I didn't love this as much as I might like.
Okay, next up is the Old Whatnot Shop, Barb Lawton.
Okay. All right, you set yourself up for this picture pretty well in that you got are able to look up that side of the street, and it kind of walks from the lower left-hand corner up toward the middle of the picture. And you want the sky there is pretty good and pretty appropriate for this. And a lot of these Old West ghost town pictures work pretty well when you're able to remember that when you're out there, the sky is the number one thing. So having a good bit of sky there is not a problem. I saw some of the paint and the detail in these images on the left. I think that they might have worked better in monochrome if there was more contrast for the darks. The shadowy areas were more shadowy, and the whites were whiter, if you know what I'm saying. Just a bit more contrast. And some of the Whatnot Shop itself, actually, the lighting is blown out there on some of the railing and on the front of the building. And somewhere between the lighting there and the lighting in the second building in when it's maybe a bit darker than you wanted, I think that it's possible that you have enough information on your card in the file to go in and lighten and darken this to bring those things up to where you want it to be. I like that. So in other words, the layout's good. The lighting on the buildings, which are your key subjects, and contrast there could be a good bit better, and that would bump up the interest in the image a bit, I believe.
Okay, next up, it's my favorite too, Alina Kesey.
Okay, yeah, now this is some really nice processing here. You got good toning and good contrast, and you got the man behind the counter and the little kid. So you got a little interaction going there. That's pretty good. I'd like to see the man's eyes. And first few times I did this kind of photography for competitions, I didn't think about the looking at the subject's eyes as being important, but it really is, and that would really bring this much more to life. But you got a good angle here because the background, you've got all these shells and bottles and so on are all lined up, and it just looks really, really interesting. And the added thing is that everything is just as sharp as it needs to be for the image, including very crisp on the man behind the counter and the little boy here. And again, the tonality is really extraordinarily good.
Okay, next up is King Tut, Joan Heffler.
Yeah, this one made me laugh, and I tell you, there are lots of these kinds of faces and combinations around, and I commend the photographer for being able to walk up and see this. I have a friend who says one of the problems is photographers just don't see. You know, you go there and you snap the picture, but you don't see. You really see this. It's a cool image, and all the what is also cool about it is that all the the stains on the painted surfaces and the texture and the rocks, they all pop out there pretty well, and you got some pretty good contrasty feel to it. So yeah, kudos. That was a good find.
Next up is Chris Kimcoza.
Yeah, I kind of worked through my mind on this picture and trying to figure out what was working for me and what was not. So you're going to have somebody who does a lot more figure photography to give you completely different reaction than I will to this. So again, I apologize for my lack of experience in that area. And in my 74 years, I need to spend more time photographing figure photography, I guess, and that would maybe make me a better one. But in any event, here are a couple of things that I'm wondering about. So you got the boards. I think it's great to shoot from the top right down to the young lady here, and the fact, to me, I might find it more interesting if there's some tension diagonal placement on the wood or something, upper left to the bottom right or something anyway, to guide my eye, because I look right directly at her navel. And I think what I really want to look at is her face to start with. So from where I am right now, I'm not looking at the important part of the picture. The other thing is the hair is laid out on top of this brown, the dark, I assume it's brown, the dark wood, and it kind of blends in. So because her hair is dark, it doesn't work for me quite as well because it doesn't stand out. And it looks like it's in strands rather than, like a fan of hair being fanned out. So that part didn't work. Now, what is, I should have done this in the reverse direction, talk about what does work. The lighting on her skin, the tonality is really nice throughout, and the tone or color of the print is really nice. And I don't know a lot about posing, but oftentimes if you see a model that really attracts your attention, you somehow get, like on this, rather than it being a two-dimensional picture, basically it's left to right, top to bottom. Sometimes if they're in an image and you kind of look at them, you can kind of get a three-dimensionality out of it. So I'm not sure if I'm saying it the right way, but that's the part of this that just didn't work. A lovely image, and the I won't call criticisms, my reactions to it, again, may be totally invalid because I just don't do this kind of photography.
Okay, next up is Maisie, Marguerite Hill.
Okay, yeah, I have a friend who went into pet photography. He's doing really well because everybody wants a nice portrait of their puppy. And this one's just a really cute one. You got a little pine up around it there, the arborvitae, I guess it is. And Maisie looks pretty engaged. I'm looking forward. Would have liked Maisie to be looking directly at me as the viewer, but look at the nose. You see the individual hairs on the nose here. So my question is could it be sharper? Could I have more depth of field on the face of the dog, and more sharpness around the nose? Now, I apologize, I can't tell for sure because it's a digital image, and I would probably see, if I saw a print of this, I'd be able to be a better judge of that. But the only thing is just that if Maisie looked over at me a little bit more, I'd feel a little bit better about it. And again, this is one of those that might be advantaged by selecting out the eyes on the dog and take the iris enhance in Lightroom and just bump it up a little bit so I can really see the pupils there along with the catch light. And it's good you had catch light on this. I'm not totally in love with the foliage around it. I don't think that that's necessarily needs to be there for the context. Now, that said, this from my dog, that picture will be sitting up on a table in my in my room. You've really captured the spirit of the dog there, and that's really nice.
Okay, next up is Yucca, Ray Hendrickson.
Okay, here's the hothouse plants and conservatories. And I remember I talked about this with the other succulents when we started out the evening. You got a little bit of dirt down there, and I don't want to look at that. I want to look at the plant at the very center of it, but that's pretty sharp. So I would probably clone out some of that dirt there, so I'm not distracted by it in a couple other spots. And yucca is really interesting because it's got a little bit of color, a little bit of some lines. It radiates out. It's very geometric, and probably I could see the part of the right-hand side of the image be cropped away from it and have it still work, although it's really not so bad where it is. It just seemed just a bit soft to me throughout, and I would probably like it a bit better. I think what may be happening here is that the center blade that's coming up may be the sharpest in here, but it's a tough one to do. It's a big plant, and you're going to have a lot of depth of field to be able to get everything in focus the way you'd like.
Okay, next up is Out to Pasture, Dow Smith.
Yeah, do a lot of old farms, and everybody's got an old tractor around that's got a lot of wear on it. This one is perfect. You got the nice, lot of weathering on the, I think it's a farmall, I believe it is. Gives you a lot of texture, and you got a lot of action in the parts of the tractor that are exposed there. This is good in the respect that you got this sitting in, it's an old tractor, it's out to pasture, and more literally as well as figuratively, because all of the grass that's grown up around it. And you've framed it in nice and tight, and that's good. And you've given a little bit of space out to the right, so it doesn't feel like it's nose up against the frame. The building in the background is modern and contrasts a bit with the tractor being this age. At least that's what my interpretation on it. And I don't want to overread this, because I don't think you should waste a lot of time on looking at something in the background. But it's small enough you might be able to clone that out and just look at the tractor by itself. And you got a board up on the tractor. This is a question that I run into often, is you run into a setting like this. Is it okay for me to move a board to make this picture look more complete? And I don't, of course, where you are at the time you take the picture. Now, this tonality is really good. It's good and crisp, and it's absolutely appropriate for black and white, and nice and contrasty. Nothing's blown out. I think it's interesting. It looks like my grandfather's tractor from 1954.
Next up is Paw, Joan Heffler.
Yeah, this is an interesting title for it, because that's exactly what this looks like. And the fact you're nice and sharp up on the dark surface toward me, and then it's lighter in the middle. I can still see a whole lot of detail across there in the lighted areas, and it fades back into the background. Yeah, it's a nice composition on here, and kind of unexpected. You look at this and you don't really think about Paul, but that's, once I saw the title, that's all I can think about. Now, this is just thinking about the composition here. I think that the dark black across the back is appropriate, so that keeps that area from distracting from the center of the image. And then you look at the this side of the plant, and it's a bit dark, and I'm wondering, you'd have to play with this a little bit. If you select out those darker areas on this side of the plant and lighten it up just a little bit and try to maintain your contrast, does it does it appeal to you more or not? And that's the only thing. I looked at it and I thought, it seems a little bit darker than it might be. Now that said, um, uh, being able to get the crispness and the sharpness with these cactus needles back in there, and the radiating feel of it, I like it a lot. It's good.
Okay, next up is trees, Nancy Delaney.
Okay, I really struggled a bit with this one. It appears that these are probably, might be an infrared image, and the infrared is really, really hard to get sharp and clean. I have friends that are more patient than I am, and they really have to work to get the white areas not blown out and sharp. I assume that's what this is, and I may be wrong. I think that the background being dropped down and being dark, I think is fine. The pines back there, but it was not sharp as I would have liked. But I think the potential was there for this to be an interesting picture. I also wonder about the extent to which the bottom inch or so of the image, to what extent that really contributes to it. It's foreground is important, but it didn't seem that it was a bit blurry and therefore and soft, but it was also bright. So my eyes ended up going down to that more than it should have in the image. So I would have just cropped that out.
Okay. Next up is number 8, Sean Sullivan.
Okay, now you know what, this is very clever because it's sort of centered, but all of these boards are going in every which direction. Nothing is level and nothing is straight throughout the thing, and you got a whole lot of texture out of this capture. But the story is about the number 8, and I like the fact that you didn't center on the 8. You let the 8 be on that left shutter and let it kind of shove over toward the left-hand side of the capture there. But you got good lighting on all of the wood, a little bit of a white light spot down in the corner here, but I can tell that you worked it a little bit to try to get all of that texture out. I love these old plain wood buildings like this. They just they bring a lot of whimsy to an image and a lot of nostalgia sometimes. But nice, very nice.
Okay, next is Return to the Past, Sharon Silversmith.
Yeah, this looked like it came out of an old Bodine picture out of Baltimore, perhaps from the 30s, 40s, 50s. And yeah, this is quite classy. You intentionally put the sidewalk curb in the bottom right-hand corner. And that's a smart thing to do, and it's a good and safe thing to do because it helps the viewer walk through. I will say, and I would have done the very same thing with this picture. I will say there are times when you don't have to be exactly in that corner. If it helps to move the eye through the picture, go for it. But it doesn't have to be exactly there to create motion for you. Now, all of these fire escapes, really nice, and you've got a lot of good contrast, and it looks to me just a bit sepia, so it doesn't have just a straight black and white color to it, as would be appropriate for something as old as this. But this is what black and white's made for. you had all these windows down here that could have been jammed full of signs, color, and so on and so forth. And by going black and white, I can just concentrate on the geometry of these buildings and the firescapes and so on. So yeah, nice capture.
Next up is Morning Fog, Paul O'Keefe.
Okay, I should go to the positive thing about this. First of all, is just a composition. You were thoughtful enough to put that dock. I guess I assume it's concrete on the left-hand side. It walks back along the water, and that's perfect placement for it. It's dark, and that's perfect for it. And then you've got this absolutely still water that acts to reflect this bridge. And then you got the line running across, so that these lines running perpendicular to each other, then these posts, the geometry, this captures my interest, and it looks really nice, and just enough fog off the front of it. I don't know where you guys are getting all this fog up there, but I wish I had more of it down here. It makes for some more interesting photographs. But you got the sun up here, I believe that's the sun, might be the moon, but it's the sun. It just enough of it to hint that it's there. So all of that really works well together. I really like this image, and it does have a old-timey 1940s feel to it as well. Here's the issue that I'm a little worried about. Look at the cross arm that the light in the upper left-hand corner is hanging from. And you see that white glow along the top and along the bottom of it. And you'll see that as you concentrate. Now, I think it's on everybody's screen. You should be able to see it too. It's on both sides of that lamp post. But I also found it along the edge of the concrete dock against the water there, because the sharp contrast between the dark and the white, the processing sometimes gets you there. And I have to work really hard on my black and white sometimes when I get the picture done and I think I'm really there, and I look at that and I say, darn, I got all these white edges I need to deal with. So you can clone those out, a pixel at a time practically, or you can deal with it a little bit differently in your post processing. So, well, a couple things to look at, but wow, what a nice picture.
Next up is Peas and Bees, Elena Kesey.
Yeah, this one's this was the first picture I looked at, I think the other night when I sat down with these, and I was thinking peas and bees, and I couldn't quite understand what it was, and then it occurred to me. It's a funny picture, and it's really well captured. I like the fact that it's just really sharp contrast, black and white, and then this water reflecting down at the bottom. Yeah, I framed really nicely, and look at the lines swirling up toward the upper right-hand corner. So for having an image that walks your eyes through this is really unique, and these other swirling lines, arching lines through the upper third of the image. I guess the added bonus is that it is raining, and when you look up in the upper left-hand corner, you say, "Yep, sure is." That you're able to capture that even while the rain was going. So no, this is a really nice capture.
Okay, next up is Bike Path Field, Thomas Whitmore.
And by the way, I'm making a lot of comments on these images about things I like, and these are images that I didn't select as winners, and in many cases, because sometimes an image is just really, really effective and really works. It's just the impact and the emotion that it brings. There are some others that were more impactful than these were. So Don't, if I didn't select a picture and I don't, not to worry, there's some just splendid pictures. I got a little worried with this thing. The bike path field, the field is really crunchy. So you got a great sky back there. You have tended to the rule of thirds, and I think it's fine to have a whole lot of open field up front like this with some swirls and so on. And I think you got the sky sharp, and I'm not sure how you got this hyper focus from the sky, and unless you brought a new sky in. And I see a little bit of a halo along part of the ridge back there in spots. But then this old building in the front that really captured my interest with that thin ribbon of foliage and the sky. And then you have this big field. It's a good composition. It just is really nice. I just couldn't react, couldn't get comfortable with the with all this grass up front being as crunchy looking as it is. It seemed to be a little bit over processed. Again, that could be me, and it may be that that's what the natural look of it is. So if that's the case, I apologize for a missed call on that one.
Okay, next up is Tree with Character, Ray Hendrickson.
Yeah, I carry my digital camera along and my phone when I go hiking, and I try to get out. In fact, I'm going out tomorrow morning for a short one after the rain. And I do carry it out, and I like to look for abstracts in wood, and it's all over the place. And you have to look for the right lighting and the right patterns and so on, and really think about it. And again, my friend Scott Dine, who is a former newspaper photography editor, just keeps pounding my head with the notion that you got to look and think. So you did the job here in terms of looking and thinking and finding some patterns that make for a really good abstract. So it's good and full and flaky and all that. I'm looking at it on my screen, and again, this may be a fault of a digital image. I would want this to be really sharp throughout because it's going to stand out. The depth of field here of the objects is going to be a couple of inches. So you want the near objects in focus, and the bark that's up, right against the tree there. You want that in focus too on something like this. And you need to get a lot of contrast. You have some light areas in the upper, in around 2 o'clock that I'd like to see darker down. So there's all kinds of potential here that I think that if it were really sharp and really contrasty, a lot of definition, that it would be quite interesting. Other thing that I might throw out is I go out and when I go out like this, I carry one of those little LumiCube light panels. It's about the size of a cell phone. Carry that in my bag. And if I get into a place that's shaded, I want to get some slight shadow or lighten up something so I can get less noise in my subject. I'll turn that thing on, and sometimes it helps to make something like this really work for you and get the noise out. You don't have any noise problem here. It's just that it didn't feel quite as sharp as it was. Again, apologies if the screen's not getting the sharpness across to me.
Okay, next up is Grand Teton, Nancy Delaney.
Yeah, wow, that's also on my bucket list, and I envy you for being able to get there. And you've got a good sky up there. You've got some little snow on the mountains and so on. It's all really good across these peaks. You got this bridge spanning out to the left-hand side. And what's interesting about the peaks, and I'm sure it was absolutely intentional. So working off of the left-hand corner, you got that bridge coming close to the corner. It's one of those situations where these lines don't have to go down perfectly to the corner. You don't want it. This is fine where it is, in my view. And but you watch go zigzag across the top of the mountains right up to the upper left-hand corner. That one does go to the corner. So that's good. I was wondering if you got a little bit more contrasty up in the area in almost in the center where those mountains with the snow and the dark areas. I liked it. I would have liked it a little bit better if it just seemed like it was a little bit more contrasting. The three figures across the front help to give this context and scale. And I always like to see when you can, having people in the image, it just seems like it helps me to understand how big this is or where it is and what's going on. And the bridge works just fine there. So just a few random thoughts, and I don't know, and honestly, for my picture, whether I'd actually play with the contrast or not. Those are just some ideas.
Okay, next up is 10-minute parking. Alan Wiggins.
Yeah, this is one of those that looked like the processing was absolutely perfect. You got that bike is razor sharp. And it's interesting when you look at this, how important the brick is. It's contrasty. It's all very sharp, and it grounds the picture for me. And I look back from there, and the story is about the 10-minute sign, and that makes it kind of funny in a way with the bike attached to it, which seems to be immune to the law there at that point. I don't know if this is a valid consideration or not. The sky is a little bit light, and that white car on the right-hand side. I've been hearing judges in some of the contests I've been watching paying a lot of attention to white objects and the background that takes your eye away from things, because this is a shot at dusk, and the bike is there. I don't mind the fact that the bike is a little bit dark, but my eye ends up going back to this white car on the right-hand side a little more than I'd like. What I really want to do is go razor sharp on that 10-minute parking sign, because that's what the whole thing is about.
Okay, next up is Abandoned Streets, Sean Sullivan.
Yeah, this is a really interesting angle, a point of view on this. You got subway down at the bottom, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, almost, and part of 5 floors, and you've got the Bank of America sign over here, and I'm looking at it, and I like it a lot. I really like the way you captured the detail on the trim on the building across the way there. It's pretty crisp and clean. If you do look at it, you start to see some reflections in the white windows down at the bottom. And Sean, that's something you might see if you can just select out those windows and see if any more of the reflections come out. It might make it a bit more interesting, but I'm not sure. I don't know that the reflections in the window in the second row down at the top need to be any different. They're there. As a matter of fact, I'm wondering if you go down to the top of that, just to the bottom of that second row windows, go straight across, does that take anything away from the image? And I'm thinking maybe not. But yeah, I like this. This is a good street photography, street feel. Yeah.
That is downtown Albany at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Monday.
Oh, okay. That's the other question. I was looking at it, trying to determine what the timing was. It seemed like it was not middle of the day anyway.
It was. Next up.
Okay.
Is 341 Main, Robert Neer.
Yeah, this has got a interesting feel to it, a real nostalgic urban feel as well, and it's different from the last picture in the respect that that one's trying to give you, that's about the geometry too. But this one, and it didn't play on the light. It's basically the image as it is, and you don't have a lot of shadows and definitions to work with. It's the image. This one depends on the lighting, and without the light in the middle of this portico, it wouldn't work. And you see just enough light in the face of the building that that it really works. But I see a lot of detail in the stones because of the contrast. We're able to bring in on the stone on the left-hand side, a little dark with the doors in the front, but it's 341. Great title for it, and I think it's a pretty darn good crop. I think that's exactly where I would put the crop on this one.
Next up is Taming the Snake, Thomas Whitmore.
Yeah, this when I looked at this and I thought about having the color image, this one deals with the issue of making the fire have some context by possibly having a little bit darker, bringing it back a couple of stops, I guess, in a way. So you see some nice texture there. That is really helpful. The teamwork feel that came out, and I hate to compare the two because they're two different images. Here is 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 or 6 firemen with the flame, and then you see the guy on the right, on the left-hand side. Also, it's a different composition, but the other one just worked for me because when I looked at the fire, the fierceness of the fire really, you could just feel the heat looking at it. Not quite so much here, and of course you see the spray of the water down here. It goes into droplets, and you appropriately dropped the background down to be nice and dark here. That worked pretty well. So I know that's kind of a mixed bag of reactions to this, but between the two, the other one just really spoke to me in a way that this one did not, because of the lack of the color.
Next up is Scott with the Leaf, Kimcoza.
Okay, this is interesting. I don't know for sure how this was done because I do some photography. I have done some photography like this on a white light table, and because you want to see the veins of the leaves come through, and you want to get a lot in focus and depth of field. So everything seems to be pretty in focus, and these veins and the plant and the flower are really pretty spooky looking, actually, the way they kind of wind around. I couldn't be certain if this was a post-processing effect that you kind of played with the veins and the leaf of the flower, the petals of the flower. I keep saying leaf, petals of the flower, whether that's an issue or whether this was the way it was and you just amplified up the contrast. The middle of it is absolutely sharp, and the white background staying very white is really good. I had to say what gets missed that actually contributes to it. The success of the photo is the shadow of the veins and the petals showing in the bottom part of the picture. So yeah, a little Halloween feel to the picture, but it's very nice.
Okay, next up is Staircase, Claudia Jakubowski.
Okay, yeah, these old staircases with detail in it really make for interesting images, especially if you're lucky enough to be able to have the background be as clean and clear as this is. I like the angle of the rail going down to the left You got the top rail there and these floral patterns. And, you know, it just all goes, your eyes kind of go all over this thing looking at it. It's just really creative and a very interesting angle. I'm not bothered by the fact that this bar goes across 2/3 of the way down, because that's just the way it is. But you allowed it to fall where it fell on the floral patterns there, which is fine. Here's the only question I have, and it's a question more than anything else. I see a gray shadowy area on the left-hand side of the image between a couple of the rails, about the fourth and fifth rail in, that general area, and then a little bit above the rail on the left-hand side. So I like this. My reaction to this is probably, I really like it. I would like it a smidge better if those areas down to the left were about the same tonality or same lightness, if that's the right term, as it is toward the middle of it. You know, it seemed like it went a little dark there, and just for a little bit. Now that's being picky. So otherwise, really nice, really nice.
Okay, next up is Reflected Forks, Joe Catronio.
Yeah, I've got a friend who does a lot with reflective pictures like this on plexiglass, actually. And black plexiglass gets some really nice images, and that may be what this is. So what I don't understand is how the heck did you get this placed there? And I don't see any lines in the background. I don't. So it's not a criticism. It's just that makes it really work. It's a very clean palette in the background, and the slope of the forks, nice angle both ways. I suspect I think I know how that was shot. The more I look at it. But anyway, really nice capture and nice abstract. It confuses the viewer. If you didn't tell me there were forks, I would have been working a little while to try to understand what I was looking at. But it's real fun. I like it, and it's very well done. And lastly, the processing is very well done. Nice, crisp, dark lines. The white is appropriate, and everything is very sharp.
Next up is Bates Carn, Brian Hoffman.
Yeah, this was sort of funny, particularly given the fact that we just passed the solstice here. I didn't know if there's any story to be had here or not. This looks like Cadillac Mountain or something like that. I'm not sure, but all that said, it doesn't matter. Great capture here. You got the stone. You know, I like that stone in the lower left-hand corner. Sometimes you like objects up in the front they anchor off of. And then you see these two rocks where they are. When I looked at this, the thought occurred to me, or the question occurred to me, I wonder what would happen if I would try moving to the left a little bit and to the right a little bit, and to see how that affects the view between the rocks. Not that there's anything wrong with this, because this view straight on gives you a good sense of the shapes of the rock and how they all fit together. The crop is perfect. You don't want any more sky in there than that. You want just the right amount of foreground there. That's fine. And you got reasonably sharp background, reasonably sharp eyes. I'm sorry, reasonably sharp foreground, and the background, it goes to blur a little bit so it doesn't get confused with the foreground image. But anyway, I'm babbling here. What I'm trying to say is I like the fact that the rocks here are good and sharp and crisp, granite, I assume. And again, got a lot of whimsy to it. Just might, when you shoot this, or if you shot it, did you go to the left and to the right, back and forth, and to see what might change? It might be something pops up in the within the frame there that you might like. I don't know. Just a thought.
Okay, next up is Wall Street, Bill Lanahan.
Okay, yeah, creative. Yeah, that's really interesting, and I assumed that this was either a reflection or more likely kind of tromboning the a telephoto lens in and out to like from moving it all the way out on a slow exposure to try to make that work. I don't know. I have no idea. That's just a guess. It doesn't matter. It's a cool image. It's just a little bit black and white. It appeals to me more when it's more contrasty and not too dissimilar to the first image. It's a good abstract this way. The question is how recognizable do you want the objects here to be when you put it in front of the viewer?
Okay, next up is Guardians at the Gate, Rich Streifstein.
Yeah, this was, and it's an interesting tone you have on this picture. It's a great moment. There's a man in the back, which I assume he has his iPad working. We all do everything on iPads and laptops these days. And you got a couple of handsome looking dogs here. I like the fact you got the dog in the foreground right up front. Another one of those that maybe selecting out the eyes and just lightening them just a little bit, not enough to be scary, might have made it a little bit more appealing. You see the man's face is not obscured either by the by the scroll work and the iron work. And you see the dog on the left it has the scroll going over his nose. Unfortunately, you can't have everything when you're doing what looks like it was probably just a street photo as you're walking down the street. You didn't ask these folks to pose, so that's what you get. So it's a great moment. You captured a really great moment with these folks. You might want to just a little bit select out his face and lighten it just enough that I see a bit more detail. But a handsome looking critter up front. And lastly, looking at these uprights, they're all really good. Nothing there distracts you. When I was taught to do judging, you're supposed to look at the impact, then you look at the things that could distract from it and the things that contributed to it. So I kind of go about it backwards sometimes when I look at the images. And the last thing I oftentimes look at is the verticals and the other things like that, the alignment that could distract. So, but yeah, cool picture.
Okay. Honorable mentions. First up, Stripes, Alan Wiggins.
Okay, this is an interesting picture. Did you just happen to be there at the exact moment you needed to be, or is this something you tried to set up? Because you got some incredible stripes on the pavement below, on the shirt, and in the and then on the siding on the building in the background, particularly on the left-hand side. So all of that works well, and you got this guy positioned just perfectly over the corner of that building. I really like this. The only thing I step back with is the white spots that grab your attention that you don't want him to. I went to his mask first, but real quickly went over to that sign. And I don't know how you folks feel about cloning out extraneous material with your club. Some clubs are more charitable about that than others, but it seems like if I didn't see that, I would really be looking razor sharp on him. So, yep, definitely a cool picture.
Yeah, next honorable mention, Gardenia, Claudia Jakubowski.
Yeah, this gardenia is gorgeous. It's got a lot of texture in the petals of the flower, and if you look at the very center of it, it's very, very sharp out through the most of the flower. A couple places it fades back, but it looks like you may have done a little focus stacking there to try to get it as sharp as you could. It was smart to be able to take the background and drop it back. Not sure whether you selected it out and dropped it down in color, or whether you particularly lit it that way to have the gardenia more prominent. Now here's a question, not as much a criticism. The floral part, the leaves off to the left-hand side are very dark, so I have to work a little bit to see them, but it's obviously about the flower. I don't know, do I really need to see that part of the flower or the plant, or can I do a square crop on this and accomplish the same thing? So again, it's a question, not an answer, just a thought, but a very nice image. I enjoyed that one.
Okay, next up is DC Biker, Linda Tomasula.
Okay. Yeah, this was a good capture. You got the bicycle. He could have waited till he was looking straight and have the lines straight, but he got it where the lines are diagonal. He's coming down the middle. He got it placed in just about the right place, because there's 2/3 of the image in front of him, and these good stripes. Now, what also I found interesting is gray asphalt, but black and white curb pieces here, really white paint on the lines, and he's in a really dark outfit. This picture seemed to need to be a black and white, because there is enough contrast built into it on this nice neutral gray background, and the fact that he's looking away. There are photographers who, there are judges who would want more engagement with a picture, or absolutely razor sharp on the face of the bicyclist. And I don't know that that's important to this. This is just a good urban scene, and you captured it, and you captured an unusual moment where there isn't a lot of clutter and activity around.
Next honorable mention is Shadowgate, Rich Stripestein.
Okay, yeah. Boy, this one I spent a long time on this one, looking through this gate, and then looking at the context around it, and then all these lines. There's so much geometry here. The upright of the cable on the side of the building on the left, a couple others like that. Other cables going diagonally out of the left-hand top toward the bottom. Got this shadow cast by the gate, around the gate. All of that just, it's intriguing. It's a simple image. If there's anything I would have done with this, it might have been to allow the white concrete in the lower left-hand corner to crop it up to that, so that walks out that corner. But so many of these images, there are things like that. I could have done that, I would have done that, so on. Sometimes they're just strong in both the processing and the subject, that you can have differing opinions about how you would handle some of these details in the image, like the cropping and such. So quite nice.
Okay, our last honorable mention is Look Both Ways, Sharon Silversmith.
Yeah, I'm envious of folks who are comfortable with and do street photography like this well. So this one, interesting. I first look at the man walking across the street, and then I'm caught up by the patterns on the shoes, because I kind of look down, and then my eye moves opposite out of the left-hand corner around and sees the swoop of the street and the train tracks on the street, the trolley tracks on the street. And of course, you see this is obviously in Europe because that's European. Is that Lira up there on the 95? Anyway, need to get. But I like he's positioned in the middle, looking back. And again, toning, contrast is really quite good. He's in the middle, and that works quite well with the. If you think about this, the bicycles in the background kind of are part of the scene. You know, the contrast and the fact that that's behind him, providing some context for it and some interest. It contrasts pretty dramatically with that busy spot versus the less busy spot to the right. I'm having a hard time. It's getting late at night, and I'm not articulating as well as I could. So my apologies for that. But yeah, nice, cool image.
Okay, and our winners in 5th place, Longwood Garden Beauty, Barb Lawton.
Okay, first I commend you for going to Longwood Gardens, one of my favorite places on the planet. And I just got back there about a month ago for the first time in a long time, and it's beautiful as always. This flower is just spectacular. It's very, very sharp and clean, and no noise, nothing, and it almost takes on a painterly quality. But I know it's a it starts to be a little bit two-dimensional, which is good because everything is so sharp. But I look at it, and it kind of reminds me of a hand, like a model's hand. You know, some of the hand models kind of have a swoopy feel to the fingers coming. I'm not saying that well, but the placement of the center of the flower down in the lower right-hand corner helps to see these lines radiating out through the rest of it. Lighting is really good here. And the fact that the background is just gone almost pitch to black helps to make all of that stand out. Good contrast, good image, beautiful.
Okay, in 4th place, Coastal Reflections, Bill Lanahan.
Yeah, this is looks like something from the Northwest coast or Iceland, and the fact that the sun is behind the rock on the left-hand side is good. It's got just a classic feel to it, with the water up front washing across this beach, the specular highlights, it brightens it up, and the dark shadows over here to the right. There's just enough detail still showing in the rock, and then over on the beach side, and that the rock up there, that you kind of get context for where you are, and then you have these this sliver of ocean through the middle between that and the sky, and the sky kind of reflects the same lines in a way that's in the beach. You see the swoopy line up front for the water. So I guess too many words to say. I like this because it helped my eye walk through the picture. I did not start in the bottom right-hand corner, though I might have. I went right to the light spot in the middle and it went from there throughout the picture. But very exotic look and very classic feel and well done.
Okay, in third place, Threesome, Neil Shapiro.
Okay, this is one of the nicest slow water pictures I have seen. With in the respect that it's got a lot of interest, and because there are three waterfalls, your eye follows down through all three. They're all very well done, and at the bottom you have almost like upside down fireworks of these strands of water going in all different directions. But this needed to be black and white, and it was a really good choice. And you went really dark with those rocks in order to allow the white and the water to pop out there and work. So yeah, I like this, and square crop is just what you needed in order to make that work. Just enough of the context around you to kind of enjoy the whole scene. Perfect.
In second place, Head On, Robert Neer.
Yeah, this had now, of course, I like cars, so a lot of shiny and a lot of black and white and a lot of good contrast. All the things came together here. So this is interesting because the nose of the car is sharp as a tack on number 16 and the nose. Then you go back to the face of the driver, and so you're engaged with it, but it starts to get a little bit soft. Then it's softer behind that and even further back. But from here, I'm watching those four wheels going down either side of these two vehicles in line and ready to, it looks like they're ready to race. So yeah, it worked really well. I could smell the fumes, from these car engines. I could see the cloud. Now this is one time I could see the smoke from the engines, I'm saying. In the background, a lot of times I've been saying that you need to have the background really blurry and not seeing a lot of detail. It's not a problem here to me, in the respect that that's part of the context. I think it would start to be serene. You need to feel a little bit agitated because this is a car race, so it kind of adds to the tension.
Okay, and our first place winner, Arlington, Linda Tomasillo.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time looking at this picture, and I went from left to right and up to down. I walked all the way back through the stones in that middle row, back through to the grove of trees, and I was looking at these, and I just don't know how you did it. You've got hyper focus from the foreground all the way back. Everything is just razor sharp in focus. Again, it's really, really hard with IR to get an image that is as sharp and clean as this is. I mean, I can read the writing on many of these stones from the front, and it's very it's just got a very emotional, peaceful, mournful feel to it that you can't capture in color, in regular color with this. That would be a whole different picture. The fact that it's gone to infrared, those trees are there, but they're sort of not. But you just can't get over the geometry of all of these stones, one after the other. It's a very emotional picture, and it's very affecting. So that's why I jumped on this one. This is one that would be a wall hanger as well, certainly, and many of the others this evening.
Congratulations, Linda, and everybody else. Great images, and thank you to our judge. Yeah. Ron has been a very, very thorough judge, and appreciate all your comments, feedback. Does anybody have any questions for Ron?
I take criticisms too, by the way, including the fact I'm still using too many words to say too few thoughts. But I use the word feel a whole lot with these pictures. I really could feel them, and there were so many really good ones that I just didn't know until the very end where the ribbons were going to fall. It was very, very hard to decide. You guys do good work up there.
Thank you. Any more questions or?
Thanks, Ron. Just great commentary.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I enjoyed very much.
All right, well, we'll see you next week. Same place, same time. Okay, have a great weekend and see you all later.
Okay.
Thanks, Ron. Take care.